I mean, obviously Bob has a lot going on, and so this has been something we've been working with all year. We have a lot of, obviously Eric runs a lot of our practices, and he's been awesome. And so he will be helping us out a lot. And then once we get turned over to the Olympic camp, then we just kind of resume. But yesterday we just kind of broke down a day by day, actually session by session for the next, I guess, month and a half of training. So I know the exact number of volume when I'm training on a daily schedule. I have my whole schedule for the day planned out for them until the games start. So it's all planned out, and so that's how we kind of proceed without Bob being directly with us physically. He's got it all planned out.
How much input do you have on the tape, or is that Bob telling you how it's done?
I think I have a fair bit of input if I need it, but what's really cool is I came to ASU, that is, to train with Bob, and he has such a, obviously, track record of like a lot of success that I have a lot of opinions on what has worked for me in the past, but I was also really excited to try something new. And I had people tell me, like, what if it doesn't work out, or what if training with Bob is like a tough adjustment? And I was like, I am just putting this season in his hands. I want to experience it. So yeah, I think that I could give input, and I have a bit, but mainly I'm just trusting Bob and just enjoying the experience of being with his group and with his plan and all that.
What was your reaction when you came here?
It was a lot of emotions. I love Texas. I have it tattooed on my back. I'm really proud to be a Texas Longhorn, and I want to be, a Longhorn for life, right? And so to have the opportunity to come back here, even just in preparation for trials, was really cool. But I have a life in Tempe, and I've got a lot of friends and relationships, and I love the city, and I love the surrounding nature and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of mixed emotions. I was excited to come back, but I was also sad to leave, and so there's a lot that goes into it.
How important is it too to talk about growing up in Texas, like swimming here in Texas and doing that? That you're part of like that strong spring group that's come out of Texas too, and carrying that over to Longhorns and kind of carrying that tradition of being those sprinters, like having a Luke Thompson, having you, even past ones, even Carson being the distance guy there a little bit, Peter Larson for the last relay team. Talk about how important it is to keep representing that, along with Bob training you, but also carrying that Longhorn legacy of being that sprint group.
Of being the sprint group, as in like the relays and stuff. Yeah. So what I think when you say sprint group, that's funny to me, because like really I think what it comes down to is just training good athletes, and that's kind of independent of just sprint, just distance, and a lot of these guys kind of reach into all of these realms of training. But it's it's super important, and it's cool that they made a big deal about the Longhorn legacy, about putting people, especially on the 4x200 freestyle relay, every Olympics since what, 86 maybe, or something like that. And oh my gosh, it's just so cool to be part of that, especially for the second time too. I'm really excited about that, and it's showing no signs of slowing too. There's a lot more people coming up to continue to 28 and beyond. So yeah.
How are you feeling, you yourself, and how is the team in general feeling at this point, now a month to go?
The USA team.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're really excited. We're really fired up. The last Olympics was it was an interesting experience in a lot of different ways. Mainly COVID had a massive impact. So those of us that had our first Olympic experience last time around are looking forward to a more normal Olympics with the big crowd and all the energy and less stress of having to do daily testing and everything like that. But also in the competition aspect, I feel like there's been a rising narrative in the past few years about USA swimming being challenged, and I think the team is really excited to respond to that. There's a lot of energy coming from the coaches and from the leaders of the team to respond to the doubts and stuff, and we're ready to go in and show what we can do. So lots of competition.
What does it mean for you in kind of your career to have accomplished, qualify for the Olympics before your sophomore year of college?
I think it is going to make it a lot easier to swim free in the upcoming year. I think this year I was really nervous kind of the whole time, knowing that Olympic trials were coming and that I wanted to make the team. And I think without that, I need to be an Olympian mentality. I'll just be a lot more free to kind of enjoy the experience. Thank you.
Your favorite, you talked about, but talk about that moment after finishing your race and you're able to go across the lane, be able to hug someone like Kayla, that you have a close connection with. Like, talk about that moment and what it means to you, not only from a personal moment, but as like professionally getting into swim. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. I think moments like that are always better when you can share them with someone, and it means a lot more than it would have if I had just been on my own. And it's also just, taking it out of context, like, that's Katie Ledecky, and I think I, in particular, kind of forget that sometimes, that that's someone that a lot of people idolize and really look up to. I mean, I look up to her too, but to me, that's just like a friend coming to congratulate me on getting to join her on a trip across the world.
Talk about the emotions maybe leading up into that race. Like, how were you feeling going into that? And then, like, after the race, how did you feel? Like, you felt like you did after that? Or do you feel like you're like, all right, I know I can keep going on top of all this?
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I was super nervous. I don't think I've ever been more nervous in my life. I don't really know if I want to experience ever being more nervous than that in my life. And after the race, it's just kind of knowing that I got through that, and that a lot of people say that trials is much harder than the games themselves. So I'm just really excited to kind of go out and swim my own race at the Olympics without all of the nerves and the noise.
Aaron, take me back real quick. You said you're talking about leading up to the trials, the nervousness, right? Talk about that again.
Yeah, going up to trials, I was super nervous. I would literally just be sitting and doing nothing, and I'd be nervous for maybe like a week going up to it. And I think I had to try really hard to distract myself. I did some arts and crafts, I did some other things, but it's just, I had to remember that I know what I'm doing and I've practiced for this moment. So just to use the nerves to help me.
He's coached me, but the thing that makes Eddie Eddie is the way that he treats his athletes, treats his swimmers, and he treats them as family. And so it's definitely going to be a different transition, but I'm very excited to be coached by Bob and all the great swimmers that he's bringing with him. And so, but Eddie's been everything and more that I could have asked for coming to Texas.
Do you have any really good Eddie Reach stories from back in the day?
I don't know. I mean, Eddie has a different joke every single day. So, I mean, Eddie has a million different jokes that I don't know if you guys are going to interview him, but, he'll probably give you a few of those. But, he's just so witty. And so I don't know if it's one particular story. I remember 2 years ago, probably one of the funniest memories is we were just 4th of July and they gave us an easy practice just so we could go and enjoy the day. And Eddie just randomly at the end of practice took off his shirt, stepped up on the block, and did a can opener into the water. And it was like everyone was like, "What just happened?" But that's just kind of like Eddie's personality. It's just treats his swimmer like family, likes to have a good time with us, and so it's been amazing.
Jokes? When we talk about jokes, are we talking dad jokes or are we talking jokes?
It's like Eddie Reach jokes. It's different than dad jokes. It's like dad jokes mixed with incredible wittiness and actually thought out. It's just Eddie is so unique, and he has funny jokes, and there's a few things that make him happier than when people laugh at him.
Yeah. So this is gonna be your first Olympics.
Well.
Have you heard anything about what's different at the Olympics, what to watch out for atmosphere-wise from your mentors or people who have swam before? Yeah,
I think we'll talk a lot about it at training camp too, and so I'll be ready for it by the time it comes. But from everyone that's been to the Olympics, they always tell me that trials is harder than the Olympics. It's way more pressure packed, and so it feels good to feel like I have the hard part done, and I can, just enjoy the Olympics because I just have to do the same thing I did there, and things will turn out well.
Yeah, and so you do the IM, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite stroke, and what's your least favorite stroke?
Favorite stroke is freestyle. Least favorite is breaststroke.
Yeah. Oh wait, but your brother's the best at breaststroke.
Yeah, if Jake and I could combine forces, we'd be pretty good together.
Dude, you guys are best of all time.
Yeah.
Talk about that 4IM, just generally, what was your feeling going into the race, and then maybe not necessarily a per stroke, but talk about how are you feeling through each lap as you're kind of progressing?
Yeah, before the race I was nervous. I mean, it was my first race at trials, and that first race at a taper meet's always kind of scary. It's how am I gonna swim? And 4IM is not an easy event, especially to get started with. So, I was super nervous, and so within the event, I was talking earlier, it's always been hard for me to stay in my own lane and execute my strategy. So that was the biggest goal for me, way more than time goals or place goals. I was just execute the way I want to, and I can live with whatever happens. And so you know, the whole race I was just telling myself, be me, be me. You know, I've been lucky enough to get to race Chase a bunch the last couple of years, and so I understand his race strategy. He knows mine, and so I feel like we've gotten comfortable. So like when he comes up on me on breaststroke, I'm prepared for that, and it's not something where I need to freak out. It's just I got to stick to my race strategy and continue just to, you know, attack my strengths, flying back, really push the breaststroke because that's my weak stroke, and then, you know, I feel like I'm one of the best freestylers in the world, and so just rely on that strength coming home.
About the last 3 years.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And just your journey to get to this point in the last trial, so that is the hardest one of the hardest weeks. Just talk about how rewarding it is, or what are you feeling, you know, when you sit back and look at where 2021, you know,
Yeah.
and now 2024.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, super rewarding. You know, 2021 trials was like probably the hardest week of my life, definitely the hardest swim meet of my life, definitely the lowest point I've ever been in the sport, where it's just kind of questioning, like, do I actually like this? Like, I felt like so much of my self-worth was in it, and so I was like, this isn't fun, you know, I can't actually enjoy this when I know that like my self-worth is on the line if I don't swim well. So kind of going back in the last 3 years and really focusing on my mental preparation and, you know, perspective in the sport over like, this is something I get to do, this isn't something I have to do. And so I think all of that combined with, you know, the execution of actually executing my race exactly the way I wanted it to go in the biggest stage was super rewarding, and I think that's why I was so emotional after the race. But it's been an incredible journey, and, you know, Eddie and Wyatt have been like the biggest reasons for that, along with my family. So yeah, I'm just happy to be on this journey.
Just talk about your Olympic experience. Just talk about what it was like being there, and what were your feelings going into that race and coming out of it. How did you feel like you did, or like what were your overall emotions?
Okay, yeah. So I'll start. So got to Indy, saw the pool the first time. It's a huge venue, something that like I had never seen before, never swam in. So I was a little bit nervous, but kind of excited to swim in front of such a big crowd. And kind of swam in the pool, felt great. Then had the prelim, and I was honestly most nervous for the prelim just because I didn't know how I was going to swim, how I'm going to feel. So kind of nice to get the first one under the belt. Nervous before that, but nothing too crazy. And ended up first after the prelim, going into semis that night, and then at night just kind of cruised it, had a really good swim, kind of shut down the last little bit just to not burn too much energy for the final, and super solid swim. It's what ended up being second going into the final. And then by the time of the final, like, I already had 2 swims under my race. I wasn't really too nervous. And one of the coolest moments was walking out of like the tunnel and looking into the stadium of like, I think like over 20,000 people, and being like, yeah, I'm about to qualify for my first Olympic team in front of this crowd. And it's just such a cool experience, and the race was fun, and then just such a sense of relief when I touched the wall, and just a really good feeling. Probably one of the happiest moments of my life.
When did it finally like settle in with you that you're like, I'm going to the Olympics? Like, when did it like? It probably takes a little bit of time. Like, you can see your name, you're like, oh yeah, I won the race, but then you're like, oh wait, I'm actually going to the Olympics now.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 days until it like really felt real. Like that night after, I was trying to go to bed, and I'm like, is this really happening? Like, I honestly couldn't believe it. It was pretty cool.
And then having like such a large crew of like just Texas swimmers there, I think, did that help to kind of like calm any nerves? Like having a guy like a Drew Campbell, or you have Carson next to you, like all these different guys and different teammates you've had over the time. Did it help to either calm some nerves you have, or just kind of reinforce like, hey, we know what we're doing?
Yeah, no, totally calms, and it's just nice to know people that you're racing, and it's fun to be around the guys that you train with and see them succeed as well. And like Carson made the team the night before me, and I'm like, all right, he got it done. Now it's my time to get it done. Like, kind of gave me a boost of confidence.
And even though I know he redshirted for us, but talk about also David Johnson getting in last day, last chance to also get in there. Talk about how awesome it is to see someone like that too, that's been fighting as hard as he has, to also be able to kind of make his way there too.
Yeah, it was so cool. I mean, David works so hard, and especially for those longer events. And you know, it came down to that last event. He was 3rd and 4th in his other 2, so kind of put all his eggs in that basket, and he got it done, which I was in the stands watching, and it was super fun. It's cool to watch people like experience what you did, making the team, just because you know how good it feels, and you can see them and experience that.
And how awesome is it too, also to have not necessarily like just the sprint, like just sprinters as a whole, like having guys like you there, Carson as part of the relay team, Kilgore as part of the relay team, all these different guys that you've been a part of relay teams with them too, but you all get to kind of flex your own muscles during these individual races. How awesome is it also kind of go as very heavy Longhorns that are also there?
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, our like 800 free relay historically has been really good. We had the NC2A record with me, Carson, and Drew, and then it's kind of stayed in Texas for a while. And I think it's just cool that we can take our experience from racing at a meet like NC2As and apply it to the Olympics, just because we've done it before, we know each other, so it's exciting.
How do you handle that as a coach, I guess, someone coming off an Olympic year?
I mean, that's a little bit the art of coaching. I mean, just like we're like managing athletes, we're coaching athletes. I mean, coaching is managing. Like training is another story. I think that coaching part is probably the most difficult part. She's pretty mature and she's really, really bright. But I mean, any kid, I don't care how much experience you're going to have, you're going to be nervous. So I mean, I just think going through it and being surrounded by like-minded people, being able to, we have such a long training camp, that's going to help. She's good friends with a lot of people on the team. So I just, people are going to take. The great thing about USA Swimming and about the culture that we have is the older athletes take the younger ones under their wing. So that's also going to help. It's just doesn't. Thankfully, it's not all on me.
Yeah, how much are you looking forward to your experience this summer and getting to?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's an honor and a privilege to represent the United States. I mean, when we talk about something like representing the Olympic team, we don't think about. It is about, as a little bit to do with Texas, but as to do with everything else. It's like Team USA, we forget our colors, we just red, white, and blue. And to kind of, I think for coaches, it's not just like working with it's not working with like the athletes that your own athletes and other athletes. It's an opportunity to learn and to get better, but also it's like working with just the rest of the staff. You don't get an opportunity like that to spend 4 or 5 weeks with just some like world-class coaches and spend that much time around them. Yeah, it's great.
And then I guess last, this is kind of unrelated, but you obviously have some ties to the SEC, and I'm kind of wondering with the official move on Monday, what do you know about the SEC, and what were your thoughts about?
I've been excited for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I'm all in. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't a fan of the Big 12, but I mean, the competition makes us better. It's a strong part of my belief, and to put ourselves in a position where the competition is better, it's big time swimming, it's big time athletics, and it will be a welcome change.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great summer.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And just to kind of add on top of what you probably already talked about, but talk about.
Yeah. Oh, she would love that. Yeah. Okay, I'll bring it to her.
Talk about just the team performance at trials, or just seeing what it's like for a lot of the girls that maybe that was their first time seeing trials, and then speak about just Erin, her performance there and getting.
Oh yeah, trials. Olympic trials is the most difficult meet, right? I mean, it's the most difficult meet for a reason. They want to put you through the gauntlet. They make it as hard as they possibly can, so that if you do make the Olympic team, the Olympics seem easier. And if you ask anybody who's ever competed, the Olympic trials are harder than the Olympic Games. So, I mean, I think to have some of our athletes go, whether they just had one event and one swim because they didn't advance, or the people who maybe had nighttime swims, like we put a lot of stock in earning nighttime swims, either being top 16 or top 8, because you can't make a team unless you advance, right? So I think we had a lot of young kids on our team. We had some people like Leah and Lydia who'd been there before, so it's just a lot of ups and downs. I mean, it's awesome, but we swam well, and I'm really proud of our team, but it's a lot of ups and downs.
And then not only as like from a coach perspective, but also being in a stadium of that size and having 18 to 20,000 fans every other night. How cool is it to kind of see that much fan engagement with the sport, and just staying on top of everything and just gaining that interest in the sport and just making people aware of like, hey, swim is here and we have an audience.
Right. I mean, I think that's the challenge for our sport, right? If we're gonna move forward and be supported, and with all the changes in maybe collegiate athletics, like we can't just have swimming be popular once every 4 years. We have to have swimming be popular every year, on the collegiate level, on the national level. So I think that was a big step on like showing people like swimming is fun. We can pull off like in a venue like that host a football team. So I mean, it was pretty wild. It wasn't as intimate, I would say, as it was before, but I mean, it was a lot of fan engagement. It seemed sold out. I mean, I would have loved to swim in that. You know, it was great.
And talk about just Erin Gamble's performance, just being able to, for as young an athlete she is, being able to make it on the team and show that she's up there with everyone else.
I mean, she was solid, and that's hard coming into college, being a freshman. She didn't have like, you know, standout performances at the NCAA meet. I think just the pressure of wanting to do what she wanted to do this summer. I think it's not like she put all her eggs in one basket. It would have been, but I think now she can maybe just take a breath and focus on the Olympics and focus on moving forward. I mean, we're really proud of her. I think it's great.
We're talking about Allison, but just overall, what is it? Does it ever get old training these athletes to reach the, you know, I guess what for many of them is their ultimate goal? And you've been doing this for a long time, but you still get that excitement of seeing them and you know, whenever that initial realization that, dude, I'm an Olympian.
It never gets old. I'm so fortunate to be able to still be in the business of coaching diving, and it's something that I can relate to when they reach this level, going on to the Olympics, qualifying at the Olympic trials. I remember like it was yesterday. And when I was a young kid and I watched Mark Spitz touch the wall and win 7 gold medals, just the thrill of doing the work and see them deal with obstacles, overcome them, set their dreams, never give up, and they go on to make the Olympic team. So no, it never gets old.
How much, back to Allison, how much pride is there in her, not only representing the University of Texas, but she's a homegrown Austin. How much do you think that means to her to be able to not only represent the school, but to represent the city?
I think Allison is so proud to be able to represent the University of Texas, represent her hometown, her parents, her friends, her teammates. And it just brings back a memory. When she was 9 years old, I walked into this pool to coach my morning workout at 6:15 in the morning, and she was swimming, and she got out after practice, sat down next to me, introduced herself to me, and said, "I'm Allison." And I said, "Let me see your toe point." She pointed them, and they were world class. And I looked at her and I said, "Allison, you can be the best diver in America." And she looked at me and said, "Really?" And then she went on to make junior nationals, win a junior national title, win an NCAA title, make 2 Olympic teams.
Also, talk about how crazy of a story, though, to have someone like Allison, technically was retired from the sport, and then 8, 9, 10 months later, she makes the Olympic team.
Thank you, man.
Talk about her resiliency and being able to build herself back up to show, like, hey, she still has it to show that she's there for the Olympic team.
Yeah, I think, interestingly enough, that time off may have been a blessing. She came in with a fresh attitude about the sport, kind of start from anew, not really worrying too much about anything that's happened in the past, only taking the good from the past and starting new, setting new goals, and day by day doing everything she can to get better on a daily basis. So a lot of things came into combination that helped that process, and A, she got into the best physical shape of her life, and B, she's just mentally strong. She has the ability to focus on what counts, and she can limit all the things that don't count.
And for a coach, obviously we talk about the highs of seeing like Allison make the team, but also helping out your athletes like something like Haley Hernandez, who has that Olympic experience, just misses the cut. But like, how do you help reinforce her? Like, hey, you're still a world-class athlete. Don't let this moment define you.
Oh, for sure. You know, sport is just like life. You're going to have ups and downs. And so, for instance, with Haley, she understood that on any given day, she could have been first, and she just didn't have her particular day at those trials. But she knows that all she has to do is use this as positive reinforcement to get back to work, and she knows she can get right back to the very top again.
And as a coach, representing the Olympics again for 5th, 6th time now. Was it 5th, 5 or 6?
5.
5 times now. Like, how much does that experience help to also train up the athletes and just kind of be like, hey, like, these things kind of come and go. Don't let the bright lights kind of scare you, but like, just know that when you go out there, it's you yourself performing at this point.
Oh, having the experience of going to multiple games, one as a diver myself and then multiple times as a coach, is tremendous because it helps me relate to the divers that are preparing for those bright lights and get them to understand that this actually isn't that big of a deal. It's still just another diving meet. It's still 3 meters above the water. There's water below you. There's a ceiling above you. Just get back to basics. Concentrate on your breathing. Relax and think of 1 or 2 things that makes that dive work, and you're going to dive great. So having that experience really does pay off.
5 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, do it 3 times. You raise, and you keep doing it. You raise your level of where you live. And that's what swimmers have to do and work out. I help them because I work at saying good things to them. You can't just say good things to people. If you want them to change something, you've got to critique them. But like the culture on our team is, they will say good things to each other. They never criticize. If a college-age peer speaks to another college peer and says something good, means the world. Sometimes I think more than what I ever say. If they say something critical, like you need to pick it up or you're not doing what you should do, they either cuss them out or blow them off. And you don't ever want that. Said if any criticism needs to be made, I make that. But I'm a positive person, so it's easy to do that stuff.
Mr. Reese, what's the feeling like as a coach to see your athletes qualify for the Olympics?
If you'd have asked me what it feels like to be a coach the first time I had athletes make the Olympic team, it's sad part is we all have expectations. And so if they reach those expectations, you go, phew. You know, it's not, wah! Not like that. So, and we were good this meet. Are real good guys that should have made the team. Made the team. We had other guys make finals or semifinals. As a team, from our best swimmer to our last fast swimmer, they all did well. So we enjoyed this meet. Going faster than you've ever gone. That is one of the good points and many good points in swimming, because you have a measure. If you go faster than you've ever gone, you've improved. That's all you want to do. Just find a way to get better.
One more question for you.
No, put that back.
Yeah. One more question for you. What does it say about UT's program that there's so many current and former Longhorns that have competed in the Olympics and are competing this year?
Say that again.
What does it mean? What does it say about UT's program that there's so many current Longhorns and former Longhorns that are getting a chance to compete in the Olympics?
Well, it just means we were pretty good. Overall, it means you're a hard-working team. The nature of this sport is if you're not working hard, there are 40 other guys that are going to go by you. And I tell them every year, I try to work them harder. And all my seniors pity the poor freshmen. I just tell them they don't know any different. Leave them alone. Don't tell them this is hard. This is their zero level. Live with it, and we'll try to make it better. Right now, as fast as swimming is in our country, in high school, in college, big meets like this, you can't take vacations, you can't get sick. It's just There are people out there that will go by you.
What makes Luke Hobson? He's first-time Olympian going to 2 different events. What's Luke doing right now, and what has he done right to allow him to get to this point?
Luke is probably the most unflappable guy I've got. He won the event, and it was it's kind of like he said, "Oh, that's good." He's not jumping up and down, and he handles big situations better than anybody I've been around.
What do you tell a guy like him that whenever they're getting ready, to go to the Olympics for the first time? What kind of advice? How does the training change, if at all, whenever you have a first-time Olympian getting ready for that stage?
Well, the training after they make trials, you look at their times at trials. They swam other events. You look at the other events, and like Luke probably needed another week or week and a half to rest. And so from that changes what it might have been if he'd have been as fast as we thought he would go. And glad he won. He knows he's way better than that. He's going to go a lot faster. Changes the way we work him out. We don't work him as hard. And for him, doesn't matter what you tell him to do. He does it, doesn't talk much, does a lot of fishing. He bought a boat last year. Ask him about fishing.
Coach, could you talk about Carson, and if you go back 3 years and how down he was at the trials, and then the opposite happened this year, and just how he stuck with it and how he learned to maneuver through that disappointment?
We all knew Carson would be hard to beat this time, but you're never on the Olympic team until you have the race. That's why they have the race. So when that happened, there were tears shed all over the country from Longhorn swimmers that are now, in the past. I got a lot of texts that they were glad he did that, because reason he got beat on freestyle last time, he can't get beat on freestyle. And he had a suit that he had picked out, was too tight on his legs, cuts off the circulation slightly. At the end of the race, he's not the only one that's happened to. Luckily, it's happened in conference meets, and you adjust from there. But having him do that and go fast 4 IM, real good 200 IM. That was good. And Carson, he's such a hard worker. There are probably 4 other events he could have been in at the worst the top 3.
You thought that made it a lot easier, and what kind of triggered the comeback, we'll call it?
For sure, yeah. So I have a really interesting philosophy that this whole journey taught me is sometimes it's not about like training every single day and always physically doing your sport. I think that it's really important to give your body mental and physical breaks. There's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes it's a mental reset, sometimes it allows for healing. And so I think that 2-year period for me allowed for a lot of mental and physical healing. And you're right, I stayed in the gym, so I wanted to stay fit, right? And so I was making up my own workouts, and there were different things I was trying, and I was having fun with it.
Right.
And then on the side, I was coaching diving clinics and diving lessons on the side. So I think mentally, I was still processing my sport. So when I came back, not only did I have the strength even though I hadn't touched a diving board, I still mentally had like been visualizing and breaking corrections down to explain them to little kids. And so I was able to kind of apply that. So I think that was what helped me out. And the break, every single person you talk to will say, I'm better now than I was before. Mm-hmm. And so it's crazy how taking 2 years off would make you better. I don't think it's always true for every athlete, but for me it worked. In my journey for coming back, I had retired from my sport. I said I would never compete again. I had a lot of demons. I don't know how much you know, but at the last Olympics, it was a gut-wrenching experience for me. It was very painful, and it was just hard. And I was like, I don't want to feel this feeling ever again. And so I retired, and I said, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to make money, and I'm never going to compete again. And my synchro partner from the last Olympics, I dove in sync with her. She called me up, said, hey, you should come out of retirement. Right. And I was like, at first I really was like, no. And then I thought about it. I'm a religious person, so I prayed on it, thought about it, talked to my mentors for about a month, and then decided to take the leap of faith. So yeah, that's how we got here. And it's amazing because I've been able to face all those demons and those fears and get over them, which has been one of the most rewarding experiences ever.
Just a fear of just being in the Olympics and the enormity of it all, you think?
It's just competing. Like the way I competed in the Olympics last time, I wasn't proud of. And so I think the fear of like failure is scary and it's hard, especially in a sport like mine where it's so evident and there's no teammate to hide behind. There's nowhere you can hide, right? Sure. And so it's really hard, especially on like the Olympic stage, and I just didn't want to feel that feeling again. But I said, you know what? Let me take this leap of faith. Like, I'm gonna get over these fears and these doubts and these lies in my head, and it's incredible to see where I've come in less than a year. So.
Why did you decide to come out of retirement and do individual as opposed to synchro?
I actually did synchro. So I originally was only going to train synchro. And about, I think 2 months after coming out of retirement, I was like, wow, I'm feeling good. Like physically, I'm like, I can do individual. So I remember I went into Matt and I said, hey Matt, like, can I train individual? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And so it's kind of funny how it worked out. Originally, I was literally only coming back for synchro, but again, when a door opens or when you feel called to do something, I say do it, and that's kind of what I felt with individual. And here we are. Now I get to compete in the Olympics in individual. So.
Is there a little bit of like some butterflies compared to like the collegiate athletes? They get all these different meets they can kind of compete against other ones, but for you, you're just going through practice and competing against teammates, and then you really have straight to the Olympics. Was there a little bit of butterfly when you do get there, knowing that like I haven't really been able to compete against other people, but you know your talent level will carry you like you need?
Yeah, so I had actually a really cool setup because we had a bunch of dual meets here for the college team. So I asked Matt, I said, hey Matt, like, can I just compete exhibition in the dual meets just so I can feel what it feels like to compete? And so that was a really good way for me to kind of simulate competition. And then I got to go and like there were a few USA meets. So I competed at USA Winter Nationals where I qualified for World Championships. And then I went to World Championships, got to compete on that world stage. I actually qualified the United States Olympic quota spot. So because of the work I did there, the United States is actually able to compete in women's 3-meter synchro in the Olympics, which is a cool little like accomplishment in and of itself. And then after that, I had a few other meets along the way. Like the French Open, I've already competed in the Olympic pool, so I understand what that feels like and what the environment is like. So, and then obviously Olympic trials. So along the way, I've had a few chances to compete, get the jitters out, and it's been really good.
What is your definition of exercising the demons, putting to bed the fears in the Olympics? Is it just going back? Is it placing? Is it winning? Where is that?
I think for me, honestly, it's been about just being able to get back out there and compete again. Mm-hmm. It's been about practice. There were a few dives I was mental blocking on. So it's about getting over those mental blocks in practice. It's about competing in a way I'm proud. It's about qualifying the U.S. Olympic quota spot. It's about all these steps along the way. I don't think like the Olympics is one moment, but I'm not going to define my growth based off of that one moment. What I do is I look at the whole journey, and no matter what happens at the Olympics, I'm going to look back on this and be so proud of how I did. Now, at the Olympics, I would love to obviously final and medal. That would be incredible, and that is my ultimate goal. But I will say, and I think this is important to anyone who's going to read this or hear this, like the end result is amazing, but you're made up of your journey, right? Your journey is what makes you who you are. It's what gives you your strength. And the Olympics is simply just a check on the resume that proves that I'm good enough to be one of the best in the world. But it doesn't define me.
Yeah.
And my placement there doesn't define my value. So.
More of the same?
It's more of the same, but it's really fine-tuning. So we're looking at the swims they had at the trials and maybe finding areas where we could affect that in training that might improve a weakness or something they could do better. Usually it's technical, something that we could improve on. And so we're trying to spend this next period in between focused on kind of fine-tuning the details.
Anything you're looking forward to as you go into Paris?
Everything. I love Paris. My favorite city.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Any food or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All patisserie and all the Michelin restaurants. I love all of those.
How much contact will you have with Eric while you're there? Or
Constant.
Constant.
Daily. Like ongoing.
Is it text, phone conversation?
Text, WhatsApp probably in this case. Yeah.
So how much confidence do you have in him to have him not let alone be hired here, but to be in charge of these your professionals that are heading to Paris?
Oh, 100% confidence. And also they have confidence in him. And I have confidence in the USA staff. It's the best staff in the world, in my opinion, collective, you know. So I think that they're going to do a great job preparing those guys.
Do you have any pros going who are not here in Austin? People that you're working with remotely?
Well, not remotely. So I mean, Simone, right, is going. We kind of share Simone. Herbie and I do. Herbie finished her up for trials, and we did some altitude work with her. So I'm excited to see what she does. You know, we have Hubie, who is going to be swimming for us in Texas. He's over in Europe. He's training with Leon right now, so I'll be working with him.
Is Leon planning to come back here to Austin?
I think he will, yeah.
So you anticipate he'll be competing next year? Or will he be
No, he won't compete for the college team.
Okay.
No, he's going to turn pro.
Okay.
And I actually think he'll take the whole first semester and do the World Cups and stay in Europe. But probably January would come back and start training for the summer.
Talk about the future of international swimmers, Austin being a destination for them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great destination if you want to swim at the top level. We have everything that you could possibly want. We have great coaching. We have facilities that are unmatched, and obviously the environment in the pool, you're not going to find a better training environment than what we have here.
Do you ever envision an Australian coming to the University of Texas?
I haven't, but I'm open to it. I mean, you know, I'm open to anything.
And all the talk about Australia, does the 4x2 in Athens get short shrift as far as the seismic shift in that rivalry where you guys...
It might. That was definitely a turning point.
Kind of killed them that night.
Yeah, that was a turning point for sure, because up until that point, I think they had won every 800 free relay for 7 or 8 years, right? Yeah, good point.
Talk about this probably, I say chaotic would be the word, but probably an interesting last 3 months, probably going from NCAA championships, getting to Austin, and then you're still working with your pro group and all that. Talk about that experience and what it's been like for you, just kind of getting acclimated to everything here.
Sure.
Still trying to balance out a staff, a roster, but then also trying to keep the Olympics at the front of your mind too, and trying to get back to the ready for that.
Well, chaotic is accurate, but also in a very good way, a positive way, right? I love change. I always think that leads to something good instead of the other things. You know, I think positively about it. It has been just a lot of juggling things, right? And I'm a pretty good multitasker, you know, and I've always had the Olympics kind of foremost. So whatever the decisions that I had to make here, I tried to make the ones that I just had to do for the Texas team right away, and anything that I can kind of push off till August, I've kind of pushed off because, you know, Eddie's here coaching, so I didn't have to deal with that. So it's good for me to kind of get administrative things done, focus on my Olympic group, and then just kind of let's carry them through this next month to Paris, and then I can come back here and take care of all the other things that I haven't really gotten to. But it's been amazing, and the support here has been fantastic.
And how important is it from you? Obviously, you have it with Leon on like the French team, but like looking at like just the spread of just Texas athletes or representatives of Texas that are just all across different European nations, America. Talk about how important that is, not only as like a coach, but as like more of a recruiting tool. Like, hey, even if they're not your athletes, you know that they help represent Texas and they're out there covering the entire world.
No, for sure. You know, Texas athletes are competing at the top level, internationally, nationally, you name it. I think that's sort of what we do here. That's what we strive to do. And as a coach, it's amazing to see people from all over the world representing the Longhorns. It's a great thing.
And on how awesome is it too, as a coach, and kind of got Carol's comments on it too, the sport of swim, just trying to get fans interested in the sport and just gaining that interest. Going and swimming in Lucas Oil, having 18, 19, 20,000 fans there for a swim meet, when the college level we're just trying to get hopefully 1,000. If we can get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000,
it's really good.
Phenomenal. But like, how important is that to the sport of swim and getting that fan interest and having it be sustained for that entire time that y'all were there in Indianapolis?
You know, I think it's really important, and it was an amazing event in Indianapolis. I have to admit, I was somewhat skeptical when we went there because I thought it might feel empty or it was just a lot. And to have that many people basically all the time through the meet was incredible, and I think it's just going to help bring more people. I hope we'll go back there, so you know, the more times you do it, the more local people will be involved. And I just think it's raised the bar for other competitions. You already see it for the Olympics in 2028, going to be in SoFi Stadium. So, you know, I think it's a great thing for the sport.
Was there any little moments that happened at trials that you might think back to and thought that was kind of like a little thing that happened, maybe not to like the public eye, that you kind of saw that you might reminisce and thought that was kind of like a cool moment at any point? I know there's the one with like Carson being able to finally shake hands with Michael Phelps.
That was definitely one. Kind of seeing the Shackle family celebrate together when they both made it. You know, Aaron's going to be a Longhorn, so it's kind of cool to see he and his sister together after they made it. I think that's one that I always remember. I got to see that a little bit behind the scenes. So, you know, I think there were a lot of moments like that where, you know, people just kind of celebrating, you know, and it's also tough. There are people not celebrating that just missed it or, you know, that kind of thing. So all of it is a very rich experience that people are going to grow from one way or the other. So it's an amazing event in that way.
And how do you balance that with some athletes? Like I know I asked Luke about seeing like a guy like a David Johnston getting in on the last day, finally makes the Olympic team. But from a coach, how hard is it to kind of help teach your athletes, like if they just miss the cut every single way? Like how do you reinforce them, like, hey, it's not the end of the world. Like let this be a building block for someone to do something better in the future.
Well, I think that's what you do, right? You look at it in the long term instead of the short term. Short term's pretty painful. Long term, it's going to help you, right? It's going to be something that you'll build off of. It'll inform what you do next time in your preparation. And I think those are the lessons that are really valuable.